Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Diggy546. Let's get straight to it. Is Russell Wilson going to save the New York Giants offense this year? Well, I have some stats that make me feel pretty optimistic. So let's just jump right into it. So 2024, what do you want to look at first to find out if Russell Wilson can turn things around? Now, he had a bad stretch at the end of last season, but they played some really good teams, some really good defenses. But if you take a look at overall what Russell Wilson did last year, let's just go down the list and compare it to the Giants in 2024. So points per game for the Giants in 2024, 16.1 points per game. That's 31st in the NFL. Russell Wilson had 22 points per game. Now, I don't have the ranking, but of course, that's much better than what the Giants had last year. Passing yards per game, 189 passing yards per game for the Giants last year, 225 for Russell Wilson. And this is a guy that usually doesn't have a ton of passing yards. Total passing yards for the season, 3,228 passing yards for the Giants full season. Russ had 2,482 and 6 less games. So he clearly would have been a 4,000 yard passer last year. 15 red zone passing touchdowns for the Giants in 2024 for the whole season. Russell Wilson had 16 in 11 games. So let's move on. Again, passing touchdowns. Russell Wilson is at 1.5 passing touchdowns per game, 16 touchdowns again in 11 games. So he's a guy that clearly would have been around the 24, 25, maybe even more passing touchdowns. Really good in the red zone, as I said earlier, but he did have 5 red zone interceptions, so that's not good. But that lets you know something he can clean up. But still much better in the red zone than the Giants were as a whole. Now, this is what really makes me excited here. For the deep passing, we're going to go down deep passing for Russell Wilson, then we're going to look at what the Giants had. So 40 explosive pass plays over 20 plus yards, and 336 attempts. Russell Wilson had 40 of them. 40 of them. That means he's throwing the ball down the field. Now, he had a lot of quick passes, but apparently those passes were being caught and run, and he was targeting guys down the field. Also, he got guys like Calvin Austin involved. A lot of things like that were done. 8.4% explosive play rate. So that's close to the top of the league. That shows you that he was making explosive plays on a regular basis. 97.3 PFF deep ball grade. We take that with a grain of salt. Daniel Jones was like the highest in the league, but this shows you that Russ was at least by multiple metrics a guy that could attack down the field. Again, we all know about the moon ball. We all know he can get down the field, and that's what he did last year. Nothing changed in that from that front. Still is one of the elite deep ball throwers in the NFL. And I think he'll be able to do that just because he's so great at the time and knows where to place the ball, knows when to give guys an opportunity. So for the Giants, in 17 games, compared to Russell Wilson's 11 games, he had 40 explosive plays. The Giants had 34 explosive pass plays. 34. Less than Russ in 11 games they had in 17 games. Close to the bottom of the NFL. Daniel Jones had only 3 completions over 20 yards. 3 completions. Now, he didn't play a ton, but only 3 completions over 20 yards. That's not good at all. At 24.9, Giants quarterbacks had on deep throws. So throws more than 20 yards down the field, they had a 24.9 passer rating. That is disgusting. Could not get explosive plays to save our lives. We had guys like Tommy DeVito, guys like Drew Lock, guys like Daniel Jones, that they would just see things downfield and they would not pull the trigger. And it was very frustrating to watch. All right, so in order for us to talk about why Russell Wilson could do better and could bring back the Giants offense from the graveyard this year, we have to compare receivers. So let's look at what he did last year with the Steelers receivers. I have all of their yardages, and I'll go down from most receiving yards to the least receiving yards. So in 8 games with Russell Wilson, George Pickens on 59 targets had 33 receptions for 537 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, and about 67 receiving yards per game. So clearly the number 1 receiver, of course. Calvin Austin, a guy that had a number of really deep passes, 3 receiving touchdowns for him on 41 targets. He had 26 catches, 381 yards. And Van Jefferson was in next place. So as you see, this gets lower and lower down the totem pole. He also played with Deontay Johnson and a couple of other receivers. But at the end of the day, a ton of these guys, I don't think there's much difference between that receiving core and the Giants. And I could argue that the Giants receiving core may be a bit better. Now, he did have Pat Fryermuth. Who I think is probably at this point better than any tight end we have. But they also just weren't using them right. He also had Darnell Washington, again, another decent tight end. But when you compare that to Malik Neighbors, I would take Malik Neighbors over George Pickens. I might take Darius Slayton over Deontay Johnson. Definitely take him over Calvin Austin. Wan'Dale Robinson's a solid guy. My only issue with it is Russ going to be able to hit him in the middle of the field? That's been a weakness of his for pretty much his entire career. But if he can, you never know. And then Jalen Hyatt, a guy that I think can play that Calvin Austin role. If Calvin Austin can get down the field, then Jalen Hyatt, I think, can do something similar for us and catch a lot of these bombs from Russell Wilson. So I think he has, at the very worst, a similar supporting cast here on the Giants. And then when you look at tight ends again, Theo Johnson has just as much potential as Pat Fryermuth, if not more, as far as a receiver. And I think, Russ already sounds really excited about him. So again, I think he has a ton of weapons here that he has at his disposal. And then you'll say, well, no, the running backs for the Steelers were better, or the offensive line was better. Again, I think what we had last year may have been better than Najee Harris. And then we added Cam Scatterboo. So we added Cam Scatterboo. We have Tyrone Tracy here. And Devin Singletary is our running back 3. I think he's got a very solid run game. We just need to block on the run game. But when you look at the offensive line, like I said, this is a summary of stats. So just give me a break here. But the PFF ranking for the Steelers offensive line was 21st. And for the Giants offensive line was 23rd. So that goes to show you that he has a similar supporting cast as the receivers go. He has a similar supporting cast as the offensive line goes. And he was able to make something happen. Now, when you look at the offensive philosophy, the difference, I think Russ threw a lot of short passes last year. I think Dable's going to open things up. I think Dable is going to allow him to go downfield even more than he did last year, even though you saw with the stats I just told you that he was able to attack downfield, but I think he'll attack downfield even more on a lot of these deep crossers. Guys like Hyatt, guys like Neighbors, guys like Slayton are going to be stretching the field. Even guys like Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale has been in such a bad position because he's been targeted 2 yards around the line of scrimmage. And when he gets open downfield, like wide open, he doesn't get the ball because they didn't even look his way. So I'm expecting Russell Wilson to target Wan'Dale Robinson downfield, and I expect to see a lot of big plays. Hopefully, we get to see a lot of big plays. So that is a quick deep dive on Russell Wilson and the Giants from last year. As you see, similar supporting cast, new year. Abel, I think, is going to be a little bit more aggressive. He obviously can still throw that deep ball. He obviously still looks downfield to do things. Is Russell Wilson still the, in my opinion, like almost MVP level quarterback that he used to be? I don't think he is. But is he still, probably one of the top 20 best quarterbacks in football? I really think so. You compare him to Daniel Jones last year, Daniel Jones was horrible last year. He was horrible. He was horrible. He probably is like the 28th through 35th best quarterback last year, or even worse. Just if you just look at last year, and then you add in Drew Lock, you add in Tommy DeVito, and those guys were clearly worse than Daniel Jones. So obviously, Russ should be an immediate upgrade if he can be the same player that he was. If Dable is able to work with him and be the quarterback whisperer, again, I like Dable. I think he's talented, but we've only seen him really turn one quarterback around. So let's stop calling him a quarterback whisperer. But if he's able to work his magic with Russell Wilson, he might be a quarterback whisperer. And if we can be that type of a team to put up 22 points a game like Russ did last year, then guess what? This defense is going to get after people. That will mean that we're scoring over 3 touchdowns a game, on average at 22 points. This defense is going to get after people on, as far as the pass rush goes. And we could really go out and win some games, because this front on this defense is going to be unblockable if we have leads. So please, for the sake of all Giants fans, Russell Wilson, please save us. Russell Wilson, please save us.